Severe flood warnings remain in place in the Somerset Levels amid forecasts of more heavy rain overnight.
In January 2014, the Somerset Levels experienced one of its worst floods to date, flooding nearly 150 people out of their homes.
It came in at 1 foot to 2 foot in places.
Nearly 1 year on, and a threat of funding cuts on the table.
I am a county councillor and I'm ashamed to be a county councillor, and if I could afford it I would resign today.
An army of volunteers are working round the clock to ensure people return to their homes. December 2014. Residents of the Somerset Levels have still not returned to their homes. Colin and Sally, a retired couple from Drove, were one of the worst affected.
We got flooded 3 times in all. Twice we got flooded initially and we cleaned out, and then in January it went raving mad. We got, instead of just some water in, like about an inch or 2 inches as it was before, I suppose, it came in at 1 foot to 2 foot in places.
The property is still being renovated. Helping them complete this are the Somerset Emergency Volunteers, a group founded during the flooding crisis.
So we're Somerset Emergency Volunteers. We are a group of day-to-day people who responded in a crisis situation, really. When the floods fully hit, there was a massive wave of volunteers that came forward through social media. The council approached 2 charities to kind of be the parents of a project, and that's where Somerset Emergency Volunteers was created. It's just incredible. It's incredible that these people are so willing to do this for people that this time last year they didn't know.
Jill Shortland, a county councillor by profession, is one of the longest serving and most active volunteers.
People assume if you live on the levels you should expect to be flooded. Don't live there if you don't want to be flooded. That was a lot of what came out at the time. Well, if you will live on the floodplain, well actually the whole of the House of Commons is part of the floodplain, you know, of the floodplain of the Thames. So if you want to be technical about it, 2/3 or 1/3 of the country is on a floodplain. But the reality is that a lot of the properties that we've worked with have never ever flooded before.
Today, Jill is on her way to pick up materials to be distributed to residents.
I came in as part of Flag to scrounge for stuff that people needed. So we were ringing up for dry suits and, you know, all sorts of things that we were asking businesses to supply for the volunteers.
Due to high demand of furniture and household essentials, the Somerset Emergency Volunteers were provided with a warehouse from Somerset County Council, containing donated items to help those whose insurance companies didn't pay out.
These bays are completely and utterly full of reserved items for different residents. So people have chosen the things. These, for example, all the second-hand furniture in here was chosen by a resident, and that's going to be going out to their house as soon as they are ready to go. Most of the donations now we've stopped taking in, so we haven't got the time or the capacity to continue taking things in. But there are still people in need, and it's really sad that, you know, what we're going to do with the leftovers in here is to give them to local charities, and then we'll signpost people to those local charities where they'll have to pay. Of course, they don't have to pay from us.
Jill is heading over to Moorland, one of the worst affected villages throughout the flooding. Nearly 1 year on, there is still much work to be completed on many of the properties. Today, Jill has come to visit Jane, who's just moved back into her home.
I first met Jane here on the property, how long ago was it now? It was back in March, April?
Yeah, probably
March, April time. Yeah. Jane at the time was having her house cleared by volunteers, and it was a very emotional time, wasn't it?
It's horrible to lose everything,
Yeah, and especially, we were in the back room, which is our daughter's bedroom, and it was especially the photos, wasn't it? Of your daughters, all for her life. Had all gone. The flood water in this property, if I just indicate on the window, settled at about this level. So that's how high the water was. This was probably the worst affected property in the village because it's at the lowest point.
Well, without Jill and her helpers, I wouldn't be here now today. They're brilliant. everything you can ask for, or if you anything, just ring Jill or Sadie or Stuart or any of them and they'll help. Yeah, amazing.
Although the work of the volunteers has been extremely beneficial for many on the Somerset Levels, there is doubt surrounding whether Somerset County Council will continue to fund the volunteers' work.
They said they were going to do it and then they didn't. They said, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. It's up to them to get a loan and do it themselves. That's what will happen. We'll pass back the jobs and the council will say, well, the residents will have to stand on their own 2 feet and do that for themselves.
You know, it is going to be change, it is going to be something different, but if we can move it forward, that would be absolutely fantastic, because I think we're getting the feeling that you will want to continue, yeah?
As the meeting progressed, it was announced that the council would not continue to fund the Somerset Emergency Volunteers.
That is my biggest ever disappointment, and I've said right the way through that it doesn't take much to appreciate the people who've worked bloody hard, and we've all worked really hard for these residents. We have carried them through some of the worst times, in fact for some people through the worst time of their entire lives, and the county council just cannot appreciate what it is that we've done. And that is really, I am a county councillor and I'm ashamed to be a county councillor, and if I could afford it I would resign today on the spot. But I will be going out there and doing a private email to John Osmond and saying to him how disappointed I am personally in this council that it cannot even ask the question as to what sort of resource we're talking about. And that is, for me, sorry.
After the meeting, Jill reflected on the work she's done as a volunteer.
For me, it's an issue of faith. I've got a faith, and I believe that you don't get opportunities like this to help other people.
It's beyond importance, it's magnificent, it's wonderful, it's, you name it, they should get the laurels for it, really should, because I mean they have helped out in every way possible, not only just doing the work, but you know, seeing that we're okay and looking after us generally.
I've also got my own issues with accepting appreciation, and you know, that I've been dealing with through this last 12 months, that I'm learning to accept that people can say thank you and do want to say thank you when you do something for them.
The Somerset Levels will flood again, but although the funding for the volunteers has been cut, the sense of community and their hard work will never disappear.